The twin suns of Orion 7 colony burned low in the dusty sky. Spreading orange light over the great trading market, thousands of alien voices filled the air, shouting, laughing, bargaining, and sometimes crying. Every stall glowed with strange colors. Every smell told a story of a different world. Humans were rare here, and when they appeared, people stared with quiet curiosity or hidden fear. Captain Jaren Holt walked slowly through the narrow path between stalls. His boots were old, his jacket torn at one sleeve, and his eyes looked tired. He was not a soldier anymore, not a hero, just another traveler looking for parts to fix his small ship. He wanted no trouble, no friends, no memories then. From behind the noise of the market, a small voice broke through. "Sir, please, wait." Jaren turned, half expecting a traitor. But it was a child, a small alien girl, maybe 8 or 9, her skin pale with a silver tone, her big eyes shining like tiny moons. She held a few old coins in her trembling hand. "Mister," she whispered, "I'll give you 5 credits if you be my dad for one day." Jaren blinked. Confused, for a second he thought he had heard wrong. Around them, the market suddenly became quiet. The nearest merchants stopped talking. Some aliens looked away. Others murmured words he didn't understand. Human father. Forbiddance. Someone hissed softly. He knelt to the girl's level. "Kid, what did you just say?" Her voice shook but didn't break. "I don't want toys. I just want a dad." Jaren felt something cold inside his chest, something he hadn't felt for years. She looked hungry, her clothes torn, her shoes half broken. The coins in her hand were barely worth a meal. "Where's your family?" he asked, trying to keep his voice calm. The girl hesitated, her eyes lowered. "Mama went away. They said she can't come back." "And your father?" "They said he was human," she whispered. "And that's bad?" Her voice faded like a candle fighting wind. Jaren looked around, feeling the eyes on him. He saw 2 alien guards watching from a distance. Tall figures in dark armor. He didn't like their stare. It felt like warning and threat mixed together. He sighed. "All right, kid. What's your name?" "Liri," she said, her small lips trying to smile. "Okay, Liri," Jaren said, standing up. "Let's get something to eat first." He didn't know why he said it. Maybe guilt, maybe instinct. They walked toward a food stall, her little hand clutching his jacket. She didn't ask for sweets or games. She only wanted to stay close. When the food came, she didn't eat fast. She just stared at him like she was studying his face. "Why me?" He finally asked, "Why not anyone else?" She replied softly, "Because you looked kind." Jaren almost laughed, but it came out as a sigh. "Kid, you're not a good judge of people." A sudden voice cut through the moment, harsh and metallic. "Human, step away from the child." 2 guards stood there now, weapons hanging from their belts. Liri's small body tensed. She hid behind Jaren's leg. The older guard spoke again. "That girl carries Forbidden's blood. You are not allowed to touch her." Jaren frowned. "She's just a kid." "She's a danger," the guard said. "And she belongs to the council." Before Jaren could answer, Liri whispered, "Please don't leave me." Her voice cracked. Pure fear. The guard stepped closer. Jaren's hand moved to his belt by reflex. Touching the small hidden blaster, he swore he'd never use again. The guard saw the motion and stopped, glaring. "Human," one warned. "This is not your concern." But Jaren didn't step away. He looked down at Liri, her small silver fingers gripping his coat. Something about her eyes felt too familiar, something human. He didn't understand it, but he couldn't walk away either. "All right," he said quietly. "You want her. You'll have to talk to the human embassy." He didn't even know if one existed here. But it made the guards hesitate. Liri looked up. tears on her cheeks catching the red sunlight. "Does that mean you'll stay?" she asked, her voice trembling with hope. Jaren forced a small smile. "For one day, kid, that's the deal, right?" They walked away from the guards, disappearing into the crowd. The market's noise returned, but now every sound felt sharper, every glance heavier. Jaren didn't know what he had stepped into. He only knew that something in that girl's eyes had reached the part of him he thought was dead. And as the suns lowered behind the colony's towers, he realized one small whisper had just changed the course of his quiet life. The sun had already dipped behind the metal towers of Orion 7 when Jaren and Liri reached the quieter part of the colony. Shadows stretched across the narrow streets, glowing signs flickered above them, and the smell of oil and spice floated through the air. Jaren walked fast, but the little alien girl tried to match his steps. Holding his coat tightly, he told himself he was only keeping her safe until morning. But deep down, he already knew it was more than that. They stopped near a small diner at the edge of the dock district. It was old and half-rusted, the kind of place no one asked questions. Jaren opened the door and motioned for her to go inside. The alien cook glanced at him but said nothing, only wiped a counter and turned away. They sat at a corner table, and Liri placed her 5 credits on the table carefully, like it was a great treasure. Jaren looked at the coins and sighed. "Keep them, kid," he said softly. "You already paid me when you smiled." She blinked up at him. Not sure if it was a joke or real kindness, he pushed a cup of warm broth toward her. "Drink that before it gets cold." She held it with both hands, her small fingers glowing faintly in the dim light. He noticed the shimmer again, a faint pulse of silver energy beneath her skin. "So?" Jaren asked, trying to sound calm. "Why do you want a dad for one day?" She stared at her cup. "Everyone at the shelter had someone pick them," she whispered. "But nobody picked me." He frowned. "Shelter?" She nodded. "They said my mother was taken because she loved a human, and that makes me broken." Her voice cracked, and Jaren's chest tightened. "Who told you that?" "The overseer," she said quietly. "He says I shouldn't exist." Jaren clenched his fists under the table. He had seen cruelty in war, but hearing it from a child's mouth felt different. "Listen, Liri," he said, leaning forward. "You're not broken, understand? You're alive. That's what matters." She looked at him with wide, trembling eyes. "That's what Mama used to say." "Smart woman," Jaren said, forcing a small smile. For a moment, silence filled the diner, broken only by the soft hum of machines and the faint murmur of voices outside. Then Jaren asked gently, "Do you remember your mother?" Liri nodded slowly. "She used to sing when the stars came out, and she had a pendant." "What kind of pendant?" She touched her chest, where an empty chain hung. It had a blue crystal, with a symbol like a circle and 3 lines. Jaren froze for a second. That was the mark of the Earth Marine Expedition, his old unit. "Where is it now?" he asked quickly. "They took it," she said. "When they took her away." Jaren leaned back, mind racing. If that pendant really came from his unit, then her mother must have met a human soldier, maybe even one of his lost friends. He rubbed his forehead, trying to think. He didn't believe in fate, but this felt close to it outside. A faint hum of patrol drones echoed through the alley. Liri's small head turned sharply, her ears twitching. "They're looking for us," she said softly, her voice shaking. Jaren glanced out the window. The same alien guards from the market were scanning faces. He cursed under his breath. "All right, we're moving." He grabbed the credits from the table. Leaving a few real ones of his own, they slipped out the back door, down the narrow street where the neon lights barely reached. Liri's hand gripped his tightly, and he could feel her trembling. "Don't worry, kid," he muttered. "I've gotten out of worse." They reached an old docking bay full of abandoned cargo crates. Jaren used a small wrist light to guide them through. "This place," he said, "used to belong to the freighter crews before the war." He found an old corner with blankets and dusty supplies. "We'll stay here tonight." Liri looked around, eyes wide. "It's warm," she said softly. Sitting on the blanket, he smiled faintly. "Yeah. Beats sleeping under patrol lights." She lay down but didn't close her eyes. "Jaren," she whispered, "when I said one day, did you mean it?" He looked at her, unsure how to answer. He had seen soldiers die, ships burn, planets fall, but this small child asking for one simple thing made him speechless. "Yeah," he said finally, "I meant it. One day." Her lips curved in the faintest smile. "Then, I'm happy." Jaren leaned against the wall, watching her fall asleep outside. The colony lights flickered under the twin moons. The soft wind carried the echo of sirens somewhere far away. He should have felt regret, or fear, or exhaustion. But instead he felt something he hadn't in years: peace. He looked at her sleeping face and whispered, "You really picked the wrong human, kid." But deep down, he knew it wasn't true. Because for the first time since the war ended, Jaren Holt didn't feel like a ghost wandering through space. He felt like someone who mattered again, even if just for one day. Morning came slowly over Orion 7, a pale light sliding between the cracks of metal towers and broken hangars. Jaren woke up to the soft sound of breathing beside him. Liri was curled up under the old blanket, her small hands clutching the edge like it was safety itself. For a moment, he simply watched her, trying to remember the last time he had seen peace on anyone's face. He stepped outside quietly, the air cold and dry. The distant city hummed with the low rhythm of engines and traders starting their day. Jaren leaned against a broken cargo pod, staring at the horizon. He should have taken her to the authorities. He knew that, but something inside him refused. Something human that orders and laws could never silence. When he returned, Liri was awake, sitting cross-legged on the floor, in her hands. She held a small metal pendant, dull, scratched and cracked. "Where did you get that?" Jaren asked sharply, her eyes widened. "It was here, under the blanket," she said softly. Jaren crouched down, his heart beating faster. He recognized it instantly, the symbol of the Earth Marine expedition. His old unit, the same mark she had described last night. He reached out carefully. "May I see it?" She hesitated, then handed it to him. He turned it over in his fingers, the metal warm from her touch. On the back was a name, Lieutenant Kane V. Holt. Jaren's breath caught. That was his brother's name. For a moment, he couldn't speak. The world around him fading into silence, he looked at Liri again, her silver eyes full of innocence and confusion. "Liri," he whispered, "did your mother ever say what your father's name was?" She nodded slowly. She said his name was Kane, and that he went to fight for the humans, but he never came back. Jaren closed his eyes, the truth hitting him like a storm. This little girl was his niece, his brother's child. He dropped to his knees, staring at the pendant in disbelief. How did you end up here?" he asked, voice trembling. Liri's small fingers gripped the edge of her blanket. "They said Mama ran away after the war, because people didn't want a half-human child, so she hid. Until they found us." Her eyes filled with tears. "They took her away one night. I tried to follow, but I couldn't." Her voice broke. "I thought if I find a dad, maybe she'll come back." Jaren couldn't find words. He had fought in battles that destroyed cities. But this was the kind of wound that no weapon could cause. He gently placed a hand on her head. "You don't have to look anymore, Liri. You're not alone now." She looked up at him, uncertain. "You mean, you'll stay?" He smiled weakly. "Yeah, I'll stay. The moment was broken by a sudden metallic sound outside, a drone scanning nearby alleys. Jaren moved quickly to the door, peeking out. 2 patrol drones hovered above the street, their red lights sweeping across the hangar walls. He cursed quietly. "They're still looking for you." Liri grabbed her pendant tightly, fear flashing in her eyes. He pulled out a small device from his jacket, an old signal scrambler. It buzzed faintly as he turned it on, creating a thin blue mist that distorted the drone scanners. "Stay close," he said, taking her hand. They slipped through the back corridor. Moving toward the Undercity, the tunnels were dark and damp, filled with dripping pipes and flickering lights. After a while, they reached a wider chamber, full of old crates and broken machines. Liri tugged at his sleeve. "This is where Mama used to bring me." Before they took her, she pointed to a wall where faded drawings covered the metal. Jaren looked closer. They were childish sketches, but one caught his eye. It showed a human man and a silver-skinned woman holding a child between them. Under 2 suns, in the corner of the drawing, a small symbol of the Earth Marine Expedition was scratched in with shaky lines. Jaren's chest tightened. His brother's face came back in fragments, laughing, joking, telling stories about peace after war. And now his daughter was here, hiding, alone, hunted. He whispered, "I'm sorry, Kane. I should have been there." Suddenly, a sound echoed through the tunnel. Footsteps. Heavy and fast, Jaren turned, pulling Liri behind a stack of crates. 3 alien enforcers entered the chamber, scanning with flashlights. "Search every corner," one barked. "The hybrid is close." Liri's breathing quickened. Tears in her eyes, Jaren placed a finger on his lips. Signaling silence, one of the guards came near, the light sweeping inches from their hiding spot. Jaren's hand went to his blaster, heart pounding. Then, before the guard could move closer, a soft blue glow filled the air. Liri's eyes were shining, the same light pulsing through her veins. "Stop, Liri," Jaren whispered, but it was too late. The glow spread out, forming a thin, circular shield of energy that rippled through the room. The guards stumbled back, shouting, as their scanners overloaded and sparks flew from their helmets. Jaren stared in shock, the air around them shimmering like liquid glass. When it faded, the guards were unconscious. The tunnel silent again. Liri looked at him, frightened. "I didn't mean to," she said. "It just happened." He knelt and took her shoulders gently. "It's okay, kid. It saved us." She looked down, whispering, "Mama said my power comes from him. From my father." Jaren swallowed hard, the pieces finally fitting together. His brother hadn't just loved an alien. He had created something beautiful, something the galaxy feared because it didn't understand. He stood up, taking her hand again. "Come on. We're not done yet." As they moved deeper into the tunnels, the pendant glowed faintly against Liri's chest. Jaren didn't know what kind of war he was walking into again. But this time, it wasn't for medals, or orders, or pride. It was for family. And for a promise he didn't even know he had to keep. The tunnels of Orion 7 echoed with distant alarms as Jaren and Liri ran through the darkness. Every few seconds, the light from patrol drones flashed across the walls, red and white beams cutting through the mist. The colony had come alive with search signals, scanners, and voices shouting orders in alien tongues. Jaren held Liri's hand tight, pulling her through narrow passages filled with dripping pipes and rusted metal. He didn't know where he was going, but he knew he couldn't stop. Not now. Liri tried to keep up, her breathing fast and shallow. "Are they still behind us?" she asked, her voice shaking. Jaren looked back. Silhouettes of guards moved through the tunnels, their armor reflecting the dim light. "Yeah," he muttered. "They're not giving up." He spotted an old lift at the end of the passage, its control panel half broken. He smashed it with his elbow until the door opened with a loud screech. "Inside?" he said quickly, pushing her in. The lift rattled and groaned as it climbed upward. Through the small window, the lower levels disappeared into darkness. When the doors opened again, they stepped into the open night of the upper city. The air here was filled with flashing lights, flying vehicles, and the constant hum of engines. Jaren pulled his hood lower, guiding Liri through the crowd of merchants and travelers. She looked around, her eyes wide. "It's beautiful up here." "Yeah," he said softly. "But it's not safe." They moved toward the transport docks, where ships from 100 worlds came and went. Jaren's plan was simple: get her off the planet, find the nearest human outpost, and then figure out the rest. But fate didn't care for plans. The guards appeared again on the far side of the market, their armor glinting under the neon signs. Jaren cursed under his breath. Pulling Liri behind a line of cargo containers, the guards spread out, shouting, "Hybrid sighted near Dock 47. Jaren took a deep breath. Opening a small pouch on his belt, inside were 2 flash grenades from his Marine days. He hadn't used one in years, but his hands still remembered how. "Close your eyes," he whispered. He threw both toward the guards, and a blinding white light filled the dock, followed by smoke. Liri gasped, but stayed close as he pulled her through the chaos. They ran between ships, alarms blaring, lights flashing red across the metal floors. But as they turned a corner, a blast hit the ground near their feet. Throwing them both back, Jaren shielded Liri with his body. Feeling the sting of heat against his arm, the guards had switched to live rounds now. He groaned, pulling her up. "You okay?" She nodded, eyes glowing faintly. "They won't stop." "No," he said. "But neither will we." They ducked behind a fallen cargo loader, hearts pounding. Jaren looked at her. "You said your mother left you a message once, didn't she?" Liri blinked, confused. "Yes, but I don't know where it is now." He thought fast. "Your pendant. It glowed before. Maybe it's more than just a keepsake." She held it up, and the blue crystal shimmered softly. Then, as if sensing her will, it projected a faint holographic image into the air. Jaren's breath caught. It was a woman's face, gentle and familiar. "Liri," the hologram said, her voice trembling with emotion. "If you're seeing this, it means I'm gone. But you must know the truth." The image flickered, showing a human soldier standing beside her. "Captain V. Holt, my father," Liri whispered, tears filling her eyes. The hologram continued. "Your father was a hero. He died saving hundreds during the war. They called our love forbiddance, but it wasn't shame. It was hope." The image faded slowly, leaving only silence. Jaren stared at the space where the hologram had been. His throat tightened. "Kane, you old fool," he whispered. "You never told me." Before he could say more, another explosion rocked the dock. They turned. A squad of elite enforcers had arrived, their armor black and gleaming, their weapons drawn. "End of the line." "Human," their commander growled. Jaren gritted his teeth, raising his blaster. Liri stepped in front of him, her hands glowing brighter than before. "No," she said softly, her voice steady. "I won't let them hurt you." The air around her shimmered, forming a glowing shield that expanded outward. Energy waves rippled through the air, pushing the guards back with force. Blaster bolts hit the barrier and bounced away like drops of rain. Jaren stared in awe. The little girl he had tried to protect was now protecting him. The commander roared and charged forward, swinging an electric blade. Liri's shield pulsed and sent him flying back, crashing into a metal pillar. When the light faded, smoke rose around them. Liri swayed, exhausted, and Jaren caught her before she fell. "You did good, kid," he whispered. His voice breaking, he looked up at the burning dock. At the chaos around them, there was no going back now. Every guard in the colony would be after them. He lifted her gently and ran toward an old maintenance shuttle hidden behind the cargo lifts. The ship was ancient, but its engine still hummed. He placed Liri in the co-pilot's seat, strapping her in as he powered up the controls. Alarms blared across the entire port. The speakers shouted, "Unauthorized launch detected." Jaren smiled grimly. "Guess that's us." The shuttle roared to life, engines glowing blue as they lifted off. The guards fired wildly, bolts streaking past the hull. Liri opened her eyes weakly, whispering, "Where are we going?" He looked at the stars ahead and said, "Somewhere they can't hurt you." The shuttle shot upward through the storm of light and sound, leaving behind the world that had hunted her since birth. And as Orion 7 shrank into a glowing dot behind them, Jaren looked at the sleeping girl beside him, the pendant still glowing softly against her chest. For the first time in years, he felt a reason to keep flying, because this time it wasn't about survival. It was about saving the last piece of his brother's legacy and giving a little girl the family she had always dreamed of. The small shuttle drifted through space. Glowing faintly under the light of distant stars, Jaren sat at the controls, his eyes fixed on the endless dark behind him. A sound of quiet breathing filled the cabin. Liri slept, her head resting against the seat, her small hand still holding the blue pendant. Every now and then, the light from it flickered softly. Like a heartbeat, Jaren exhaled slowly. Watching the radar screen, they had escaped Orion 7. But the colony's patrol ships were still searching the nearby sectors. He set the course toward the human refuge station, a place beyond the alien patrol routes. It would take a day to reach, and in that time, they needed to stay invisible. He switched off all external lights and drifted silently through the void. He leaned back in the pilot's chair, eyes heavy but mind awake. He thought of Cain, his brother, brave, reckless, always believing in hope even when war made it foolish. And now his daughter sat in his ship, breathing softly, carrying a power the galaxy feared. He smiled faintly. "Guess you left me one last mission, brother." Hours passed, and when Liri woke, she rubbed her eyes and looked around. "Are we safe?" she asked, her voice small and tired. "For now," Jaren said gently, "we're heading to a human base. They'll protect us there." She nodded, then looked out the window at the stars. "There's so many," she whispered. "Mama used to say every star is a home waiting to be found." Jaren smiled. She was right. After a long silence, Liri turned to him. "Do you miss your family?" The question hit him harder than he expected. He stared ahead, his voice low. "I lost them a long time ago, in the war." She looked down. "Me too." He reached over, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. "Not anymore." Her eyes lifted, shining faintly. "You mean that?" He nodded. "Yeah, kid, I mean it." Suddenly, the radar beeped. 3 red blips appeared on the screen. Small ships closing in fast. Jaren cursed softly. "They found us." Liri's heartbeat quickened. "What do we do?" He tightened his grip on the controls. "We run." The shuttle engines flared, pushing them through the asteroid field nearby. Rocks drifted around them, silent giants floating in the darkness. Blaster fire streaked past, lighting the shadows with blue light. Jaren weaved through the debris, his instincts kicking in. "Hang on," he shouted, steering sharply as a blast hit a nearby rock. Sending fragments across their hull, Liri cried out, clutching the pendant. The crystal glowed again, brighter, deeper, and suddenly the air around the ship shimmered. "What's happening?" Jaren asked, eyes wide. "I don't know," Liri whispered. It's protecting us. A blue barrier formed around the shuttle. Absorbing the next volley of energy, the alien ship slowed, their scanners confused by the interference. Jaren grinned. Your dad would be proud. Kid, Liri smiled weakly. You sound like him. He laughed softly. Yeah, maybe. The chase lasted minutes that felt like hours. But finally, the radar cleared, the alien signals faded, leaving only silence and the whisper of stars. Jaren set the ship on autopilot and turned to Liri. You did it, he said. You saved us. She shook her head. We saved each other. The journey continued in calm after that. They passed through glowing nebula clouds, where light shimmered like rivers in the dark. Liri leaned close to the window, watching the stars dance across her reflection. Jaren watched her quietly, realizing how much she had changed him. He wasn't just a lost soldier anymore. He was something more, something human again. When the human refuge station finally appeared ahead, its bright lights cutting through the black, Jaren felt relief wash over him. This is it, he said softly. A new start. As they landed, uniformed officers approached, scanning the ship and saluting when they saw the Earth insignia on his sleeve. One of them asked, Captain Holt, who's the child? Jaren looked at Liri, who stood beside him, small but brave, her silver eyes shining. He placed a hand on her shoulder and said, Family. The officer nodded silently and stepped aside. They walked down the ramp together, Liri holding his hand. Around them, humans and aliens moved side by side, refugees, traders, engineers, a small piece of peace in a galaxy full of war. Liri looked up at him and said softly, I don't want toys. I just want a dad. Jaren knelt, smiling through tired eyes. Then from today, you have one. She threw her arms around him, and for a moment, all the noise of the world disappeared. The station lights reflected off her pendant, casting soft blue light across the floor, and in that light, Jaren saw his brother's face again, proud, smiling free. He whispered under his breath, I kept your promise, Kane. As the stars outside shimmered brighter, the voiceover could be heard in the silence of space. Sometimes it doesn't take a hero to save a world. It just takes someone willing to be a father for one day. And with that, the shuttle doors closed behind them. A soldier and a small alien girl, two lost souls, finding home in each other beneath the endless stars.